wanted to elaborate with you is a topic that is quite important and quite dear to my heart. I wanted to cover the future of work. So when I was young and I had hair in my head, in 2009 I did the strategy for Germany, the digital strategy for Germany. And this evolved to the digital agenda and then later on to the fourth industrial revolution. So I wanted to go through with you a little bit. What is the fourth industrial revolution? And which effect does it have on people, the way we work, and the future on how we will work? So the session I have here is actually for you. And so take notes, challenge yourself, and I will open up 5 minutes before I'm closing. I will open up for questions. So this is just a little bit about myself, but in reality, if I should say what's really behind it, then I should actually praise my wife. It's my wife that is behind that. That's the person that has been supporting me all these years. She's the person that has been raising my children. She's the person that has been supporting me. If I really should give an honor to somebody, it's my wife. And the reasons why I really wanted to do this is because people at the centerpiece of the fourth industrial revolution are people. People connect with people, people work with people, and people sell to people. So everything we do, we interconnect with people. And so the basic line from the very beginning of age when we were Stone Age people, you have a skill, and because you have a skill, this skill you apply to something, and the skill makes you valuable. The skill often also defines a person. So when you look at this is quite impressive. 35% of skills demand for jobs across the industry will change by 2020. This will affect all of us. 1 out of 4 workers in the OECD countries is a mismatch. These are quite alarming numbers. And we are actually in the centerpiece of something called the fourth industrial revolution. So when you actually look on here, the fourth industrial revolution consists slowly of a theme that we defined in 2009. We looked in Germany. Germany was under extremely pressure on productivity level. We gathered all the industry leaders together, Professor Henrik Von Scheel and Professor Scheel and myself, and we selected with them how can Germany become more product-driven, productivity-driven. Because the golden rule in strategy is always, if you want to grow, you first need to have your productivity level up over 2% in 2 years. If not, you cannot grow. The golden rule, many country leaders ask me, Henrik, we need to grow, we need to be competitive. I said, okay, ease up. You have to walk before you run. So you have to get your productivity level up and running. You have to get your house in order. So the basics of the 4 different industrial revolutions is always people. And the centerpiece of each of them have been manufacturing. So if we are very honest to each other, every country is based on manufacturing. If you call it agriculture, if you call it oil and gas, if you call it whatever you call it, it's always manufacturing. And every industry in a country walks on manufacturing. Service industry, transportation industry, any industry always does that. Now, each of them are built on certain elements. A country or a company is based on a competence, which is based on a capability, an ability to do something, which is always based on a skills. A capabilities is divided up into a skill level that you can fragment into skills. So today, when you look at the labor market, you have cheap labor market, you have specialized labor market, and you have the different segmentations. The fourth, third, second, and first industrial revolution does nothing else than it transforms each time the labor market, how they move and how you apply skills to it. The important thing I wanted to mention here is that the Industrial Revolution is nothing new. And there's nothing to fear about technology. From the very dawn of ages, human being has adapted itself to fire, to technology, and all these other things. There's nothing to fear about it. Why? It's our ability as human beings to adapt to changes. This is one ability we have as human beings. We can adapt to changes. So part of being the future of work is also our core ability to adapt to changes. So, the fourth industrial revolution is 17 main pillars. And these pillars are not technology driven. Technology is an enabler for it. So on the panel I was yesterday, I heard this Spanish guy, Mexican guy, and I loved what he said, so I will reuse it again. He said, in Mexico, we say, it's not the bullet that kills, it's the speed that kills. And it's the same thing with work. We have a skill. If we're not adapting too fast, Niels Bohr and Einstein, they had a certain principle about the change gap. If the change gaps becomes too big, if an electron moves too far out of its orbit, the change gap becomes too big. If the change gap becomes too big, the change you have to do is radical. You have to jump from one orbit to another orbit. The same thing is with skills. So for the developing countries that are sitting here for FDI and thinking about, oops, but all these new things I need to adapt to. I'm a cheap labor market, I'm focusing on agriculture, I'm focusing on manufacturing, I have natural resources that I need to do. So what do I need to do? Now, what you need to do is focus on exactly the change gap that you have. Focus on the key areas, what you do. What is the biggest mistakes that most of the ones do here, that when you go around and you see FDI, they all have the same value proposition. So when you want to differentiate, the differentiation is you apply a skill to something in order to differentiate. And what you can differentiate is on how you apply the technology and how you work on it. The fourth industrial revolution, each of these 17 pillars comes in waves. And the waves are merging a little bit like this. So the first wave of the fourth industrial revolution has already happened. The digitalization, advanced analytics, IoT, augmented reality, robotics, they have already happened. So if companies want to apply, or countries want to apply to be productive, that's called productivity. So everywhere where you are non-core, where you're not differentiating, this is where you apply principles, where you minimum, where you can apply elements to integrate, to have a higher level of maturity. So when you have a manufacturing organization, what you need to do is to create more operational excellence by having a higher level of integration, a higher level of optimization, and a higher level of alignment. That means your workforce can work better together, so you don't have to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper in labor. You can be more productive. Now the element of surprise comes here for the developing countries. Because normally in the other three industrial revolutions, you had to pay a significant amount of money to be up to the task to compete with them. The fourth industrial revolution eliminates this. It means you can actually come in with a lower end of investment and start to compete. So the first wave is quite important. If you want to be in a global market, if you want to be in a global marketplace, if you want to offer global solutions, you need to be digitalized. You need to be connected. You need to have internet. You need to have connected manufacturing that actually updates you with the latest elements to it. So the second wave is a quite different wave. This is the wave we're in right now. The wave that you're focusing on right now, many of the mature countries are focusing it to have a comparative competitiveness, growth. That means comparative competitiveness means in economic terms, you are minimum as good as your competitor. You're not better, you're minimum as good as they are. So if you're running with somebody, you are as good as they are running. So when you compete in a market where you're industry specific, you need to be minimum as good as your competition. So Porter's model, you already know how you can do that via price, how you can do it via lead time, how you can do it via the production line. So these are basic principles that you can apply. They have not changed for the last 25 years. Same principles you apply. So the second wave is also about how you apply technology towards that. So these terminologies are being thrown around like they're like big technology they're very simple terminologies. At the World Economic Forum, we were sitting with all the professors together to define artificial intelligence. It's very simple. Artificial intelligence is the automation of intelligence. The question you have, what is intelligence? So any process, any service flow, anything you have in a supply chain, you can optimize, you can interconnect, you can integrate. This is artificial intelligence, where you connect the dots that you automate something where there's intelligence to it. Good. Here comes an important point. Because with the second wave in the workforce, something really is happening. And I'm just going to go a little bit more organizational-wise, because for you, your FDI organizations and your organizations, this will give you a little bit of an experience. Smart automation is not technology. It's how you apply technology. So let me put it like this. If this is an activity and I have an input and I have an output, everything we do in the world today, we do output-driven measurements. Activities has already happened. This is changing. Why? In the last couple of 20 years, with the strong mechanisms on performance-driven and silos-driven how organizations are organized, we have organized our skills in organizations today in silos, hierarchies, managers, directors, and eventually when we get down, that means we have siloed how we do activities. We have cut the workforce, the workflow into pieces. That means the input and the output is already a hiccup effect that constantly goes like this. Now, with technology today, we have the ability to do service flows, workflows, information flow. That means we can measure the activities meanwhile it happens. What does that mean for developing countries? You don't have to necessarily leapfrog, because when you are a big organization in Germany and you have a manufacturing up and running, you have invested in ERP systems, you have invested in all these systems, you are already hardwired, you have cemented the way you do things. Suddenly, an organization in Kenya that matures up and says, good, how do I want to do it? Do I want to do it process-driven or workflow-driven or service flow-driven? Because they start from scratch, they can redefine how they do something. That means they can redefine how they can compete. This is not a small thing. So I wanted to move back to this one. This one is actually an element how you see there's always a hiccup effect on the skills development when you see on the exponential growth and the people that adopt to it. So, cut it very short on the fourth industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution is the combination of three worlds that are colliding together. It's a digital world, the physical world, and the virtual world. They're colliding together. Take your phone in your hand and you can see it's digital. You can actually connect with all devices around you. It's physical because it's a handheld device, and it's virtual because you can Skype, you can view your performance management, and all these things. These worlds are colliding together in all aspects. The key element of this is people, how they apply it and how they use the technology. Our world is changing faster than ever before. We lived in the most blessed time ever. We are educated. We have more equality than ever before. We have food on the table. We are developing in our society in the right space. We can say all the bad things that are coming, but we're moving in the right space. We have, as human beings, everything in our hand to shape it in the right things. The changes that are coming exponentially. Now, we are the generations that can adapt to it. The next generation is the generations that can adapt to it. So the centerpiece of the fourth industrial revolution is human being. It's you. It's you and you. So the element towards that is it will affect our economy, how we live, how we do business, how consumers consume. It will change every aspect. But this is an advantage. It will reshape the prosperity boundaries. It reshapes the competitive boundaries of nations. It reshapes FDI's possibilities. It reshapes all these elements. But here's the important thing. The centerpiece to think how to apply it is still the human being. So here's my question to you. What do you think is most important? Skills or mindset in the future? You can take a hand up. How many think skills is most important for the future? Good. How many think mindset is most important? Okay. I think the majority is mindset. Good. I think you're quite right with that. Because when you really look, this is what we did at the World Economic Forum. So the next skills that are really coming by 2020, the skills we need, is complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, people management, project management, and so on. What does that really mean? The mindset that you have is more important. You will change 2, 3, 4 jobs throughout your life. The important thing is when you are a country or if you are an organization that competes on price, it's not the price that matters. It's the people that matter. I was at the leading sandwich company in the UK, Samworth Brothers. Some of the people they have, they've been there for 25, 30 years. They live in Leicester. There are Indians and Pakistanis that work there, women with no education. They've been living there for a very good long time, and they have a good society there. Even though they are cheap labor, the company takes good care of them. So that means when you look at the OECD numbers, how they're developing, by 2020, Brazil will have the same labor cost as France, where most economists will raise their eyebrows and say, what happened there? So it's not necessarily always the cheapest price that will matter. So it's how you position it and how you change. Now here's a personal saying to each of you that sit here. Each of you will require throughout your life to change your jobs a couple of times. You have different dreams, you have different ambitions. The frame you're put into, the education that you take, it's not necessarily the ones that you will end up with next year and next year and next year. Most of you who are fathers, you have a responsibility to supply for your children. Most of you are mothers, you also have a responsibility. So each parenthood, they get educated. Each children get educated. The skills you need for the future are cross-disciplinary skills. What we learn in school, we don't need the same way today. Now here's a personal plea I have. Because what is the skill that is most important of all that is not mentioned there? Which skill do you think is the most important one that is not mentioned there? Any good suggestion? Flexibility, yes. Learning, yes. Learning is very, very important. Empathy, yes. Empathy is also there on emotional intelligence, yes. Very good. In reality, the key skills that is needed there is values. If we need to direct ourselves in the future, the topics I always cover on the Industry 4.0 are social, economic, and business. The soft topic I'm often coming with, nobody really wants to listen to. Values. The values are like a compass. They will guide us what we will choose in our lives. Our values are eroding around the world. If you go to the Islamic world, if you go to the Christian world, if you go to any of the religious world, it doesn't matter if it's religion or not. Let's take religion away. But still, the basic value of being a human being, how we want to treat each other, how we want to have ethics, how we want to be treated, they are the ones who will decide who we will be in the future and which choices we take. The values will decide the path for our career and the path for our skills. So when you want to succeed today, a lawyer can go into artificial intelligence because there needs rules and governance within it. So there's many aspects of this that is quite important. So in closing, I want to add a special compliment to the UAE, and I do this on purpose. The UAE is, from my sense, the most innovative country I have seen so far. They are a semi-government organization. They are actively trying to pursue to be innovative. They are actively trying to pursue to get the developing countries here. They're trying to push something forward, which is very, very challenging. Yes, they have done a lot of mistakes below, but mistakes is what they learn from. I have seen no FDI country that has been through the last 10 years moving up the bar like they have. They are, from my view, the hidden champions. They are investing and they're willing to do mistakes. Why? They have a character of a business, but they act like a government. Very, very unique. So I think in terms of when we look at skills, what we need in the future, we need strong women that have cross-competency skills. We need strong women that come into leadership. I've been sitting in board positions in many, many big companies, and they get women in because they're women. But women take different decisions than men. Men are performance-driven, and our culture will change within organizations as well. Our culture today is a hierarchical culture. Our culture today in business is based on directors and managers. To be honest, I've been looking at governments and advising governments and told them, you know what? You can cut half of the people. They will add no value. They are managers managing managers. So in reality, we have the last 15 years been driven in a performance-driven culture. I think we are all in a self-confidence element. We don't need managers today. I don't need anybody to manage me. Do we need processes? Yes. Do we need policies? Yes. Do we need guidelines? Yes. But we can cut half of the managers away in reality, because that makes organizations more agile and more better. We also need to give the youth more confidence and more support. My son is right down here. He's 25 years old. I've been feeding him with strategy from the very beginning, and he loves it. Now, why is this important to say? I think the ability to adapt to changes are soft values we need to give our children, but we need to give the torch as soon as possible on. I cannot sit with all my knowledge and competencies too long. I need to give it on because the next generation will form it and shape it and reshape it. So Joshua is leading one of my organizations. He does it very different than what I do. I've been raised in IBM. I'm hardcore performance driven. I can come with all these things. This is what all the medals I have learned. But he manages different. He does it different. And I don't think it's wrong. And I think if we need to raise the bar to the next level, we need to raise it to the next generations as soon as possible. We need to have strong economic people that think, that challenge our economic models that are today. Our economics models we have today are not true anymore. Our thinking we have today is not true anymore. Let me give you a simple example, and this is what we need to challenge all. We all live in a world where we relate to the world in a binary logic. Binary logic, 0 and 1s, cause and effect. This is how we understand and relate to the world. We know for a fact today, everything we go down in nanotechnology is quantum logic. Everything we go up in the universe is quantum logic. We have been fooling ourselves to make sure that the world fits us and we understand the world in terms of that. We need to grow up in terms of our thinking. Our economic models do not fit anymore. I've been preaching that at the World Economic Forum for a very, very long time. GDP is mind masturbation. It's not true anymore. We need to rethink how it works. We need to rethink how FDI works. FDI consists of 5 business models, and it's under radical change. To apply the same principles, and we think it works, will not work in the future. To apply how we compete, grow, and productivity level, we need to change this model. We need to rethink the model on how we assess people, on how we use people, on how soft skills are used. We need to be the change. And the change starts with me. The change starts with each of you. And so what I'm trying to give you is a custodian for that. Now, at the end, I wanted to tell you a personal story. And the reason why I want to tell you that personal story. When I was young, my parents went through a divorce. I was a frustrated child. I was stuttering, and I was dyslexic. They put me out of a normal school into a special school. I came into an environment, I didn't feel comfortable in that environment. I didn't belong in that environment. I couldn't speak. I couldn't express myself. I felt like I was spiraling down deep, deep, deep. Now I have a German teacher. Bad coffee breath. He used every day time on me to learn me the techniques to read and to overcome my dyslexia. 1 year after that, he put me back to normal school. And he told me, Henrik, there's nothing wrong with you. You just think different. Now, each of you who stand here, you are a different person. There's nobody like you. Everybody is different. Now, the only element that we pay each other as a human being is the value that we give to each other. Now, the 4th Industrial Revolution is about people. And the reasons why I'm telling you this story, a very personal story about myself. Somebody put faith in me. Now there's people around you, you see that have dreams, that have ambitions. You should also be the enabler for them. You should help the people that are around you to lift them up. This is what makes us who we really are. Now, I was at this teacher's funeral 10 years ago. Now, I was the only person on that funeral. Now, the value he added to me meant more to me than I could repay him ever. So when you see people struggling at work, or when you see people that needs to be reskilled, when you see people that have a challenge to perform, everybody, as a human being, they want to perform. Everybody wants to succeed. It's our ability to help that. It's our ability as human beings to connect together. We are able to take this to the next level. Now, you are a community of developing countries that are on FDI. You can create a council, a forum, how you can do the future work yourself. You can create a council on how you can do your economic models, how you want to assess it, how you want to look at it. You can do the same things. You are at the level you don't have to follow best practice anymore. You can define your own practices. That means, as a developing countries that are coming up, you don't always have to look to Germany. If you look to Germany, you compete with Germany, what Germany is doing. You're not Germany. I can already tell you that. That means you have to redefine your own turf, what you're really good at, and define where you compete on. So this was my short presentation to you on the future of skills. I think personally the future looks bright. I'm thankful that the UAE gives this platform for you that are around here. I hope you use it. This is a blessing by itself that everybody has the ability to connect together. So thank you very much.